My friends, we are going to grow and get better together. This is not about me. This is about us. Welcome to Win Today with Johnny Martin. Welcome back, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Win Today with your boy, Johnny Martin. So happy to be back with you. A quick thank you to our sponsor for this episode, Headquarter Brand Apparel. You can find them on social media at Headquarter Brand and online at headquarterbrand.com.
And we'll link them in the bio.
And we will link them in the bio. Special thanks to our mighty Marine, Coquet, and his team at Headquarter Brand Apparel for sponsoring this episode. And we are going to get right back into it, folks. For those of you that did not have a chance to tune in to the last episode with my lifelong friend, Coach Kevin Turco from Lindenwood University, Belleville, Illinois, I highly encourage you to go back and check that episode out. As we continue our conversation today with Coach Turco. When we left off, Coach was talking to us about his passion and dream of coaching college football, his mentor, Lou Holtz, and his strong desire to get down to Columbia, South Carolina, where Coach was at the time, introduce himself, which has led to an amazing journey that we're going to talk about in this episode. But for right now, Coach, welcome back. Thanks for joining us again, my friend. We really appreciate it.
It's great to be back, John.
So last time we left off, Bud, you had just gotten to University of South Carolina, made it to the football office, and were welcomed in to Coach Holtz's office. So take us the rest of the way, my friend.
Well, when I actually got in his office, he was just he and I, and he was at one end of his desk and I was at the other, and I handed him my 8-page letter, which I called my book, and this is truly I'm not embellishing here. This is exactly what I said. I said, Coach, I've read your books, the only 2 books I've ever read from cover to cover. I said, I think it's only fair that you read my book. And I figured that if I mail it to you, it would disregard as fan mail. And he took it and he told me to sit down, and he read all 8 pages in front of me. And, the meeting that I had with him was life-changing.
So I got to ask you this, though, bro. I have to ask you this. You read both of his books, which I know. You wrote this 8-page story that you called your book, and it was sort of your life up until that point and what brought you to Columbia, right?
Sure.
But your statement to him was, I've read both of your books. Now, this is a dude you've never met before in your life. He's one of the most legendary coaches in the history of college football. And you handed him what I'm guessing was probably, did you even put it in a folder, or was it all crumpled up like toilet paper?
No. I would never have handed him something like that. It was on the best paper I could find. I went through the grammar like 100 million times the next night. That night before I got there, I went to the library and triple-checked everything.
That's awesome. So you handed
when I gave it to him.
Yeah, so you handed it to him and said, I read both your books. I think it's only fair that you read mine.
That's correct. And that's, honestly, that's not really the truth. When I was in high school, I read the book To Kill a Mockingbird, and when I got done reading it, I had no idea how to kill a mockingbird, and I kind of got, discouraged from reading books from that point on. But so I didn't bring that point up. So there's really 3 books that I've read and not 2.
Fair enough.
And so, but I meant that. I did say that to him, and he read all 8 pages in front of me. But one of the things in that conversation, as I'm looking at him, and I'm out looking to the right, and his office overlooked the entire stadium. He said to me, Kevin, I was supposed to go to Alabama on a recruiting trip this morning, but it got postponed for reasons I don't know. He said, but if I went when I was supposed to go, you would have came here and we wouldn't have met. And I quote, he looked at me, he said, it's almost like fate that we met. And I said, Coach, I believe the same thing. But rest assured that if I came here and you were in Alabama, that would have extended my trip a little bit longer.
Because you would have been driving to Alabama.
I would have, and I would have ran out of money. I probably would have had to live there for the rest of my life, But my point being is, and I said that with the utmost respect, but I remember he kind of smiled when I said that, because I was on a mission. I wasn't going to be that kamikaze pilot that went on 3 or 4 different missions. I was on my way to accomplish the goal. And
he knew you were serious. He knew you were dead serious.
I was extremely serious. And, I said to him, I'll never forget this. I said, I didn't come here for an autograph. I said, all I want to do is not be average anymore. But I said, nobody's ever going to believe that I'm sitting in your office. And I said it, again, this was an emotional conversation, one that I'll never forget. And
Of course.
he reached in his desk and he pulled out his business card, and I'm actually looking at it right now. And it said, on the back, he wrote, "Kevin, I enjoyed our visit. I'll be in touch." And he signed it, Lou Holtz. And I remember I took that back with me, and it was a long journey back to Springfield. And I remember saying, he said, what did he say? He said something like, you doing okay now? I said, yeah. I just got a long ride back. And he said something like, well, you probably should have called him first, don't you think? And, it was just he's kind of got this, wit about him that's pretty funny. And in the back of my mind, I'm saying, well, that wouldn't have worked,
Right.
But I'm so thankful. And, from that point on, he did get back with me. And as you know, I drove down there probably 4 or 5 times after that. It wasn't just one shot. This took 4.5 years. In that meantime, I got hired on a Wednesday and left on a Monday to go out to Kansas to a place that I'd never been before in that 88 Delta at Red Velvet Seats, because it was the only place that would hire me to coach college football.
I remember it like it was yesterday. Yeah.
Next to Western New England College, which, Jerry Martin is the first guy that ever hired me in college football, the guy I played for. And to this day, I'm indebted to him, and I'm always grateful for that opportunity. But this was the first time I had a chance to go out and be a graduate assistant. And I remember that. It was a special moment in my life. I ended up graduating with a master's degree at a 4.0 GPA, something that, I never thought may have happened. But it's amazing that the things that you could accomplish when you're willing to give things up to accomplish it. I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with too, that, whatever it is that you want to do, if you truly want to be great at what you want to do, you've got to be willing to give some things up. And
you've got to be willing, I think, and you could speak to this too, but you've got to be willing to give a lot of things up. If you think about, and that's where I think people fall short, Bud, is that we live in a society now where we have access to everything almost instantly. We have to work for very little, and people feel like, for whatever reason, that they're owed something. And that mindset just doesn't work if you're trying to elevate who you want to be as a person.
No
so
doubt.
when you talk about sacrifice, and we talk about it all the time on the show and in the work that I do with student athletes and families and clients, what are you willing to give up that other people aren't to get where you want to be? So I just think that's a great point,
The weddings that heck, I wasn't even allowed to get to. I couldn't even get to your wedding because I couldn't afford it.
I know.
Living out of my.
Still mad at you about that, by the way.
Yeah.
You were supposed to be. You were supposed to be in it.
I know I was. But anyways, and then I think you got John Cena to replace me, right? I think that's what it was.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad fill-in.
No, not at all. But anyways, it was an amazing journey, and the things that you had to give up, living in a car, not having any money, and it led me to St. Peter's College, where now they don't have a program, but it was a school in Jersey City. And I remember, John, I was still driving that 88 Delta with Red Velvet Seats, and now this is 4.5 years later, and it doesn't have a muffler. And so,
it's a muscle car now. Now it's become a muscle car.
It is, and it also alerts the date that you're picking up, that you're about 3 blocks away too. And so going into that place, I remember I made $500 a month, and I was nearly 30 years old. And so many of my friends were married, and they had kids and had careers, and they were saving up for retirement and all the things that I didn't have by my own choice. And every year I'd get passed up for this graduate assistant job that I was trying to get. It always seemed to open up in January. And from all those times I went down there, I started working their camp, so I got an opportunity to know some things, and I was pretty aware that this was Coach Holtz's last year, and they just hired somebody, and it looked like it was over. I mean, here I have been, for 4.5 years trying to get this job, and I didn't get it, and I know he's getting ready to retire. They're not going to hire any more GAs, graduate assistants, and I'm making $500 a month living in this office, close to 30 years old, on a tile floor. And I'd leave the lights on because they said if you leave the lights on, cockroaches don't come out at night. That I heard before. So I would take the cushions off the couch in the waiting room, and I would that's where I lived. And, you go from believing in your journey and you're chasing this dream till you're sitting there going, maybe everyone was right. what the hell have I been doing?
That's that self-doubt creeping in again.
It does. It does. It's like that song that's out that fear's a liar. So is self-doubt. Self-doubt is a liar, and it'll make you feel like you've made the worst mistakes of your life when in essence you're ready to take that next step. You just don't know it yet.
That's
You're
right.
so close.
You're one step closer, but again, and we say this all the time. So another great example for people that are listening to, living on a basement floor, or excuse me, a tile floor at 30 years old in the coach's office because you can't afford your own apartment. That self-doubt creeps in again. Like, man, am I ever going to be gainfully employed in this field, which I love so much? And then that doubt starts to creep in again. And what we don't realize, and this is where most people fall short, is that you could have hung it up 25 other times along the way, but that self-doubt creeps in, and now what?
No doubt. And I remember, one night I was watching an infomercial on St. Jude Children's Hospital, and it just kind of, I don't know, it caught my attention, obviously. I mean, I don't know how it couldn't. And that 8-page letter, believe it or not, turned into about close to 1,000 pages typed. When I was at the University of St. Mary's out in Kansas, I spent just about every night just adding to it. And I'm sure none of it makes any sense to anyone but me, but it was about my life, recounting things that I've experienced. And I remember thinking when I was typing it that someday I was going to make a lot of money off this thing because I was going to run out of that tunnel at South Carolina and people are going to hear this story. But since I had that mentality, I kept getting passed over for the job. Well, here I am overlooking where the World Trade Center used to be. It's like a cold, foggy night in Jersey City. I'm at a pier, and I'm ready to quit. Honest to God, it's dark. I'm looking over the river, and I'm just thinking and praying. And I just said, God, if you let me run out of this tunnel at the University of South Carolina, I'll donate that book to St. Jude Children's Hospital. And, John, and I know because you live your life the same way, all of a sudden this journey became nothing about me and everything about doing something great so you can influence and help people or tell a story like I'm telling now that may help somebody down the road.
And I guarantee you it will help somebody down the road. It's when we take that step from being more concerned about our personal success and our ego and our individual paycheck, and it's when we turn that corner and when we care much more about being significant, using our strengths and gifts to inspire other people to be better. And it sounds to me, brother, like that's exactly what happened.
It did. And so this journey became not about me, about other people. And the next day, and not 3 days later, you can't make this stuff up. The next day I get off the tile floor and I'm sitting there, I'm ready to quit. I mean, I just got passed over for the job for the last time. He's getting ready to retire. I've been chasing this thing for 4.5 years. I've driven down there 4 or 5 times. What else could I have done? And the phone rang, and it was the University of South Carolina, and it was a guy by the name who's a dear friend of mine now. His name was Cliff Snow, the football operations guy, and he said, Kevin, I'm calling on behalf of Lou Holtz to extend an offer for you to be a graduate assistant on his staff. And, if there was ever a moment where you're like, it really isn't about us because it's about other people, because it was when I committed to that moment happened. And I remember I remember calling you. I don't know if you remember, but I said, write this down. I said, IDIDIT. And you're like, what the hell does that mean?
I do remember that.
And you're like, I said, I did it.
Yeah. I was
we cried.
Yeah, you're damn right I cried. We cried like little babies, man. We all cried.
I remember Stevie calling me too, who, by the way, I'll never forget. He was the one that shared with me the first time that time is the best thing you can give somebody, because he gave it to me one time when I was in Ohio when I was having a rough moment.
I remember.
I sat in that parking lot, and he sat there for an hour just sitting there talking to me, and I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
But getting back to that moment, I should have wrote "We did it," but at the moment, you don't. I'm still learning. I'm still thinking that it's about me, but it wasn't. I wouldn't have gotten there without you and your parents and Pat Corthell and everyone at 21, 24 where we lived, all that support. And so you think about it. That was in March. So that next September was September 11th, ironically, 2004. University of South Carolina were playing the number 3 team in
Georgia.
the country,
Georgia.
University. Yep.
I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
It was on ESPN, primetime game, 8:00. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, ESPN game day of the week,
And you were, I will never, ever forget it. In fact, we talked about it on the last episode, but I remember we had I don't know if it was my house or somebody else's house, but we knew you were on staff. You had gone through preseason with them and you were down there on staff. And we weren't sure if you were going to come out with Coach Holtz, but we knew we'd see you on the sidelines at some point. But
yeah,
the amazing thing was all of us, my mother, my father, my brother and I, Pat, Lauren, the whole crew, we're all sitting together and we're watching our best friend in the front of the tunnel at Williams-Brice Stadium in front of 86,000 people, standing next to Lou Holtz, leading your football team onto the field. And I get the chills right now just talking about it, but I remember it like it was yesterday.
I ran out of the tunnel right with him, and it's amazing. I got to the 50-yard line, and it's like, and I think that I hope everyone gets this moment where it's that one moment in time where you were more than what so many people ever thought you could be. That for 1 second, honestly, John, I felt like the world stopped spinning for 1 second, just to take it in, because you think about all that went into all those peaks and valleys and tough days, that it happened. But like life, then the game starts, and then you move on, and
you become a football coach, and you handle your business,
and you got to keep on going, because that's not the end of the journey. And I struggled with that a little bit, because it's like I got there and it's like, what's next?
Now what? You feel like you made it. So what I really want to talk about too, Bud, is the what's next. Because I know that if you go back to 2004 when you started at South Carolina, we're now in 2018. That's a long stretch of time, and so just to kind of fast forward for our audience, Coach since that time, spent time at South Carolina, spent time at East Carolina University. Spent time at a great school in South Carolina called Newberry College, and some other stops along the way. Coach is now the head coach at Lindenwood University, Belleville, in Belleville, Illinois. So I really want to take us there now, Coach, because you walked into a situation where, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you walked into a situation where there was a lot, in your opinion, as a newly hired head coach, a lot that needed to change. So I really want to talk to you about that process, not just as it relates to your football program, but your plan and what you believe in so strongly in molding these young men and creating a really significant program.
Sure. When I walked into this program, it was a program that was in tough shape, and accountability and discipline and pride within the organization didn't exist. It truly didn't. So one of the first things that I did was I hired a really special staff, guys that I felt, and they do, I scored incredibly. If I've done nothing right, I've hired the greatest assistants in the world, where we just check our egos at the door every day, and we believe that this is a calling for us to help these kids. And so I hired a great staff, that used car salesman, college coach that, like, I know you've heard them, where they call and they'll sell these kids anything they want to hear, and they won't shoot these guys straight. That doesn't exist here. These are just genuine human beings that
surround yourself with good people. It's contagious.
I really have. I believe in my heart that we're going to reach where we want to be, where this program becomes the very best it can possibly be. And, I think there's two types of people. There's people that say that, and there's guys that have a plan. So I don't have a philosophy. I've got a plan, and it's really simple. We measure the growth in this organization in 4 critical areas. It's GPA. So we call them units here, not positions, because we want to be 9 units strong going into every game. And so it's unit GPA, unit discipline, right? And that's the personal discipline. That's just being on time, where you're supposed to be, with a good attitude. It's a choice we make every single day. It's the strength in the weight room, and it's your fundamentals. Those 4 critical areas will allow me and the staff to sit there from one semester to another, because they're measurable goals.
Sure.
And is your program growing, or is it dying? And so this past season, it was challenging, to say the least. This is the best NAI conference in the country, and it has incredible coaches that we have to go against with great teams, classy programs, and I knew this was going to be difficult. But when we got the doors blown off us every
Sure.
week,
Sure.
I had to sit there and question: is this really what I want to do? Because I mean, it was traumatic. But here's the thing: we as a staff stayed true to our values, and we held these kids accountable, and we created an environment where being on time, having a good attitude, taking pride in your class and going to class, there was value to that. Because so many places I've been at, sometimes it seems like you go out to practice and 70% of kids are doing all the right things. They have good attitudes. And then there's 30% that sometimes they're on time and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they want to be great, sometimes they're not. They're like those locker room lawyers that are always stirring the pot. And so I used to sit there and say, well, why are these guys still allowed to be around? Because what's the value then of being on time and having a good attitude if they can still be here?
Sure.
And so because of the protocols that we put in place, we ended up with, it depleted some talent. And I think when some coaches may have, maybe compromised their values, we didn't. We stuck true. And now what we have is a genuine environment where kids,
where guys believe in the process, they believe in one another, and they believe in you guys. So if you could just talk for a couple of minutes around the importance for you as a head coach, as a leader, as a manager, because at your level, it's not just about the X's and O's. It's about being an effective leader, and it's about running an organization, both from a fiscal and budgetary standpoint, from a relationship standpoint, from a booster standpoint, a community standpoint. But at the end of the day, I've always thought and still think what's critically important, if you want anybody to respond to you in any way as a leader, then you have to build authentic relationships. What have you found in your work and in your life to be the key to building those relationships with your players and your coaches?
Sure. We focus on three things here that we believe is going to build a couple things. One, it's going to allow the player to become the very best he could be. It's going to help with retention, and it's going to bring joy for him to be around this place. And so what it comes down to is three things. One, the coach, whether it's myself or these assistants, we got to earn trust. And really, that's nothing more than just doing the right thing a million times over again. And it's just saying what you mean and meaning what you say.
Sure. Everybody tries to complicate real simple things.
They really do. And the other thing is connection. And I talk about it almost daily with my staff, is we've got to connect with these kids outside of football. Build that, and that means the fifth teamer to the All-American. It doesn't matter. It's got to be authentic and genuine, and it's got to be with everybody, because, that fifth teamer would have been me, and,
sure.
That guy really wants to be, that's somebody's son. That guy's here's got a great attitude, and he wants to be great.
And also that fifth teamer, in my experience, not just in athletics, but with any organization and any group of people, when you look at that fifth teamer, those people are usually the ones that end up leaving school, leaving college, and going on to become unbelievably significant human beings, because they have characteristics that a lot of times the first string guys never have to tap into, because those first string guys, even though they may be very driven, they also are athletically gifted. But when you're a fifth teamer at the best conference in the country in the NAIA, and you decide to gut it out for 4 years, knowing you're never going to get a meaningful rep during a football game, man, what does that say about you as a human being?
There's no doubt. I mean, there's no doubt. So we talk about trust, we talk about connection, and then that unit leader or coach has to be competent in what he's teaching. And I think that if you have a staff full of guys that are excellent at earning trust, really good at investing the time, because it takes time, with connecting with their men, and they're competent in what they teach, those are the three pillars that we talk about all the time as a staff that I believe in my heart build those relationships with the kids that you're coaching.
Have you seen it working?
Oh boy, have we ever. We have such a genuine environment here right now, and we're not where we want to be. Believe me, it's like anything else, it takes time, but we really have. I mean, you think about this. We had 82 kids this past fall with perfect attendance in the classroom. Now, we did go 0-10. I understand that. But when you talk about from an internal growth, and you talk about that plan I just talked about with those 4 areas that we're working on: personal discipline, unit GPA. You go from a 2.4 to a 2.9. You have 82 kids with perfect attendance.
It's
I guarantee you
ridiculous.
that's better than any team in America. I would bet my
I
life
would
on it.
agree it's better than any team in the country. And what I also respect tremendously is the fact that you own, you just came on and said, yeah, we were 0-10. And the reason that I love that you shared that is because it illustrates the point again that, you know what? You cannot change a culture overnight. You cannot become individually successful overnight. You can't be team significant overnight. But when you trust the process, commit to the process, commit to the plan, and you know based on your 20 plus years of experience at this level what works and what doesn't, you own everything. You own the successes, you own the failures, you own the triumphs, you own the setbacks. That's your job as a leader. And so for you to come out and say, hey, we were 0-10, I love that, because what that shows me and what that shows your men, most importantly, is that, hey, we're owning all of it. And I am still not wavering from what we believe is going to set you men up to be successful, both on the football field as it relates to our record, but in life as men, when you get a degree from this great university.
It's amazing, John, that, when things aren't going well, everyone seems to think that they have the answer. And, whether
absolutely.
I got
absolutely.
it. You're too hard on the guys. You're holding too high of a standard. Or in reality, I haven't wavered. I've adjusted, but I haven't wavered. And you know what? Proof's in the pudding. GPA's gone up. All these kids are where they're supposed to be, and they're on time. They have 82 kids with perfect attendance in the classroom.
And they're becoming young men. They're becoming men who are going to be great fathers, great husbands.
They are.
Yeah.
They are. We love these kids. I mean, honest to God, I can't tell you how many games you're going to win in the future. All I can talk about is just today. But where we are as a program today, we're light years ahead of where we were. Just from a recruiting standpoint, we really focused on recruiting kids that talk more about their responsibilities and obligations and less about their rights and privileges. And
I love that.
To have those kind of guys in this program that are willing to go out and help the community and just help one another,
Sure. Let me ask you this, Bud, because we're getting close here. But
okay.
Let me ask you this in sort of a quick soundbite, 60 to 90 seconds, because I think it'll help people really connect with some of the things that they can start to create in their own lives to make significant change, or the people that they lead, or the people that they're led by. If you could, from a personal standpoint, as a coach, as a husband, as a man, what are some of the things, maybe one, maybe two or three, what are some things in your life, pal, that are non-negotiable, that they are the foundation, the rock by which you plant the rest of your life on every day? What are the non-negotiables for you in 60 seconds or so?
Yeah, real simple. I got to be trustworthy. I want to be a guy that's trusted, and I want to be around people that I can trust. There's people that mean what they say, and they say what they mean. Doesn't mean that they don't make mistakes, but they're trustworthy. They're constantly trying to do the right thing a million times over. They follow through on the things that they say. The other thing is care. I want to be around people that care about one another. Their heart's in the right spot, just like what we've been talking about. The reason why you do this podcast, you're not doing it for anything other than the fact that you want to touch lives and share stories with people and hopefully help somebody. I want to be around people that care about people. And the other thing is I want to be around people that got a commitment to excellence in everything they do. It doesn't matter whether they're a janitor, whether they're a car salesman, a college football coach, a podcast personality, whatever it is. I just want to be around people that take pride in being the very best they could be, and they're willing to pay the price to do it. Those are my non-negotiables. And
I love it. I absolutely love it. For those of you that are listening, one of the things I'd strongly suggest is, if you want to start to help create a really strong foundation by which you choose to live your life every day, create not a list of things that you have already, a list of things that you like, but create a list of the things that are absolutely non-negotiable. And if the things that you run into in your life that make you question whether or not it's the right decision to make or the wrong decision to make, or are you headed on the right path, you have a benchmark by which you can check. Do these fall in line with my non-negotiables? For Coach Turco, they are trust, they are care, and they are commitment. And I will say, having known you for as long as I've known you, not just as a dear friend, I call you a brother, but also who you are as a coach and a man, I can say without hesitation that is the way that you certainly live.
Before we go, I just want to say too, Coach, that I wouldn't be here without Ryan Kaiser, who's our athletic director. We've worked at several universities before here, and he's the first guy that took a shot at me, and he supports me every single day, and he believes in me, and I just want to make sure that he knows and he gets the credit that's due, even though he wouldn't want it, that he knows how thankful I am for what he has done for me, and then our president, Dr. Barger, for signing off on it and believing in me as well, and my wife, who I've got the greatest wife in the world, who supports me every single day. My Lord Jesus Christ, who's my driving rock and force in everything I do. And I also want to thank you, because you're my best friend, next to my wife. And for all the people that are listening to this, if there's ever a testimony of a man helping another person, this man dragged me to run out of that tunnel on more than one occasion. And so I want to thank you. I love you like a brother, your family, your brother Steve, Uncle Mo, Princess Leia, your mom, your wife, your kids, Pat Corthell and Lauren. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I'm just thankful.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing that. And I know that how highly you think of Mr. Kaiser, your AD. I know you guys have had a long journey together. I appreciate your kind words and sentiments relative to me and my family. The only thing I can tell you is I'm humbled and honored to have been a part of it. I certainly don't in any way feel like I've been the driving force behind it, but man, do I feel so blessed to have been a part of it and will continue to be a part of it. I just want to thank you on behalf of Cloud9 Marketing Group, Seven Roads Media.
Thanks, Coach.
And certainly, man, it goes without saying. I love you very much. I appreciate you, and so grateful that you took the time to rehash your story, your life, where you're headed now. And we all wish you continued success. Send the boys my love. Ladies and gentlemen, my good friends, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Win Today with my dear, dear friend, Coach Kevin Turco. As always, be good to those you love. Let them know you love them, and have a great day. Thank you to Seven Roads Media and Cloud9 Marketing Group for co-producing the show. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on whatever platform you're on. Without you, I cannot continue to do what I love. You can follow me personally on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Real John C. Martin. I'd love to hear from you, so please reach out with comments and questions after each episode. Your comments push me to get better every day. As always, thank you for your continued support, and don't forget, win today.